All right. Welcome, everyone. We're starting a brand new episode of our Actionable Case Studies podcast. Today's episode is called Uncover Client Insights and Solve Issues Faster. These are tools for coaches and consultants. My name is Vinay Raman, and I'm the host of this episode. I look forward to having a conversation with you here. First thing I want to do, I want to tell you about this. Many people who are attending this call are coaches, consultants, advisors, and guides to companies. You're probably already very successful at what you do today. And today's episode is about whether you're in HR consulting, business consulting, leadership consulting, financial consulting. This is about taking it to that next level. How do you move to that next level of performance? Hey, John Lane. Thank you for chiming into the comments. Nice to have you here, John. Um, and I would encourage anyone, please make this an interactive episode. I would encourage you to type comments in as you're getting value out of this if you got questions throughout the course of this. But the question I want to ask you to get us all started off and kicked off here is, what if you could uncover client insights and solve their issues faster, right? In your process of having conversations with them, right? What if you could elevate their performance to the next level while at the same time elevating your own performance as a coach, consultant, advisor, or guide, but increasing your precision and accuracy at the same time? That's what we're kind of that's what's in store for you today as we go through all of this today. But before we get started, I'd like to hear from people who are listening in. What industries are you in? You're probably pretty successful in the industry that you're in, but I would love to be able to tune this episode so that I can make sure that there are great and tailored insights for you in terms of what we discuss and what I show you here as we get a little further along. So please type into the comments, if you will. I think it should be on the right-hand side. What industry you're in, if you're HR, if you're business, leadership, financial consulting, or sales consulting, or if you're a coach, please type that into the comments. I would love to hear where you are from. I know John Lane, who's typed in already. John, great to see you. Leadership consulting is what John is in. Thank you, John, for joining in. I would love to hear from anybody else what fields you are. Just based on the number of attendees, let me kind of read out for you a couple of the types of people that we've got here. We've got HR consulting, startup and angel investing consultants. We've got executive leadership coaches. We've got digital marketing coaches. Tell me what industries you're in so I can tailor this podcast and this episode to what you do. Because here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you a little bit more focused on sales leaders now, right? Thanks, John. I will make sure I bring out some points and kind of articulate some of how you can use this tool to be more effective in and around that sales realm. Let me tell you what we're going to do on this podcast and what you'll get and the value you'll have throughout this podcast, because I want to make sure this is the right use of your time, because you're probably a very busy person that's got lots in your life. I want to make sure that this is of maximum effectiveness for you. We help coaches as a company. What we do is we help coaches and consultants like you uncover client insights faster. And I've got a screen off here to the side. I want to make sure I give you the right succinct language here. We uncover client insights faster with greater accuracy using data-driven tools like our culture and role alignment index. And what this revolutionary and patent-pending tool does is it solves problems, but transforms organizations and their cultures globally. It's already been happening for the better part of 4 years now. We're now just starting to roll it out at a larger scale. And that's why we're doing these episodes, to let more people know about what we do and how we can help them in their pursuits. But being part of today's session, you're going to experience how to pinpoint your client frictions quickly and efficiently. You're also going to enhance your existing framework. So if you have a framework in place, this is not to replace this, rather to augment and make it shine even brighter, because you'll get people to the table to use those frameworks that you have sooner. I'm going to give you a lot of stats. They'll kind of show you how that will actually occur. But it's going to unlock more value for your clients faster than ever before. So if you're listening in or coming in late, we're 5 minutes in. I'd love to understand what industries you are in so that I can start to tailor this dialogue to you. We've already got John Lane who's joined us, and he is in the leadership consulting space, and he's now focused on sales leader. We've had people sign up to this episode who have been in HR, leadership, business, financial consulting, business consulting. So please type that into the comments. All right. Let's talk about current challenges and how you build awareness around that. And the question to you is about this idea of how do you today identify your client frictions and misalignments? And what I mean by that is if you're talking to a team, how do you find out where there's two different people on the team who've just got a different point of view? How do you find that today? And more specifically, how do you find the ones that aren't so obvious, the ones that don't appear to you right away, that aren't on the surface? Here's why I want to ask you that, or I asked you that. I would love to hear your response to that. Please share with me in the comments how you do that today. Um, McKinsey did a study in 2023 that said organizations that can quickly identify internal frictions 2.5 times more likely to see improved performance and higher retention rates within their leadership teams. So, 2.5 more times and more effective if they have alignment. But they've got to be able to find those internal frictions, those misalignments in order to be able to do that. So even the most successful coaches and consultants struggle with this. I've heard many, many stories of consultants just like yourselves in many, many industries who have struggled with this as well. I'd love to hear if you've struggled with it. All right, because what we're going to do as I go a little further along here is I'm going to start to share with you how you can see that in a couple of moments. So the next question for you is if you could diagnose those client frictions or leadership misalignments, kind of in keeping with that McKinsey study, if you could see those client frictions and see those leadership misalignments in a fraction of the time, how would they change the conversation for you? Um, Let me give you a story. There was a multi-billion-dollar company. I think they're about 6, $7 billion in revenue, 10,000 plus employees. And there was a story of a consultant coaching organization who had been working with them to provide leadership and coaching services. They'd worked with them well over 9 months. Um, let's see. I'm going to share John's comment here. He says, I have. I only see my comments. I think they pop up in the LinkedIn feed a little later here. But yeah, I think we all have experienced that at some point in time where there has been frictions that we can't address right away until we get much deeper into it. So, kind of going forward with the story, just to that point, this client or this coach was engaged with this senior leadership team. They had the senior vice president of operations of this 10,000 person organization. They also had the chief technology officer engaged because they were going to start bringing in data to do some analytics. And they were ready to sign a deal. We put in this case, this organization had put the contract in front of them. It was a 3-year deal worth $3.6 million. It was a pretty good size deal where there was going to be an expansive set of services and consultation that goes along with it, but also some tools that were bundled in. The leadership team had their leadership summit as they did every year in early January. The first week of January, they went off site and they came back. Uh, I heard the story of 2 weeks later there was crickets in terms of movement and progress on this deal. Only find out that it had been killed as an idea. The services to be provided were employee retention and employee engagement, and this was right around the time when the Great Resignation was in full swing. What company doesn't have employee engagement and employee retention issues? This company definitely did. They were putting record numbers, bad numbers in terms of their how fast they were losing employees. But other members of their leadership team had a different agenda. So it killed the deal. 9 months, lots of time and effort, lots of trips, phone calls, time at night wasted in building a solution for them. And it was done. That was it. It was dead. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever experienced that frustration because it took 9 months for you, 10 months for you to close a deal or get to the point where you're able to close a deal only to find out that there was some hidden factor that prevented that deal from happening? Because Deloitte says in a report that did in 2022 that consultants who use diagnostic tools like our culture and role alignment index, they saw a 40% increase in client satisfaction and were twice as likely to be asked for repeat business. So, a 40% jump in how much they're satisfied with what you do and sign on the dotted line. And further, they ask you for repeat business twice as often. Is that interesting? Being able to see that 40% increase and getting renewed twice as often. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Yes? No? Interesting to be able to see that because that's exactly what I'm going to be showing you in a couple of moments here. How you can get uh, jumps in close rates so significantly, just like Deloitte said here, with 40% and twice as often that they will renew. Wait a moment here. I want to see in the comments, is this resonating with you? And how have you experienced this kind of pains before? All right. Here's what we want to do. I want to show you a story of a company where I'm going to make a promise to you, and this is what I actually do when I do conferences all the time. I'm going to make a promise of 90 seconds. In 90 seconds, once I show you this visualization, it'll take you 90 seconds before you'll see where the misalignment is. And if it's not, you don't have to waste any more time in watching this because this won't help you. But if you can see it in 90 seconds, you can completely shift the way you understand what's happening with your potential client, and it will change the way you offer services. All right. Let me get to the slide here. I'm going to share this with you, and then you're going to see what I'm talking about. All right. I'm sharing my screen here. All right, you should be seeing my screen in a moment here. Let me know if that pops up on screen for you. Great. So let's talk about this. So what we're doing is the title of this episode is an actionable case study. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you actual real results. This is the company we've changed the name, the company, the people present, but it's actually using live data. So this is exactly what would happen in a real life scenario. Let me see. You can't hear me, says John Lane. How about now, John? Can you still hear what I'm saying? Let me make sure that my settings are working just fine. It looks like my webcam has taken over for my audio. I wonder if that's what's causing the problem here. Uh, Give me a quick moment here. Let me try something and see if I can make that. Let's try this. Let's see. Oh, my computer does not seem to like me. Let me lean in here to make sure you can hear me okay. John, appreciate you telling me. Is there anybody else who is having difficulty hearing me, or can you hear me okay? Please give me a thumbs up, or I can hear you if you can hear what I'm saying as I'm talking here. I will assume that you can hear me again now, as I've leaned in a little bit closer to the camera. All right, let's talk about Sarah Mitchell. John, thank you for giving me. Hmm, let's see. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's see if that solves the issue. Huh. All right. I stopped sharing my screen. Let's see if. All right. How about now, John? Are you able to hear me? All right. Let me assume that you can hear me again. Tell me again. I will keep watching the comments so that we can hopefully make this thing work. You can see how this works. How about this? Maybe where you're able to see my screen now and hear me at the same time. That's what I'm hoping. Let's tell me if you can hear me. I would appreciate that. I'll proceed assuming that you can. So we're talking about an actionable case study here. I want to show you a lady named Sarah Mitchell, who's the CEO of a company called Apex Services, fictional company. The name has been changed, image has been changed, but it is a real position and a real company. So she's in the financial services. Her revenue range, she's just under 10 million in revenue as a company. And here's some of her challenges: aligning leadership perspectives on financial health, market position, employee engagement. Gosh, how long does it take you to understand some of those misalignments where they're having struggles? It probably takes a number of sessions in person with them, Zoom calls, video calls, where you can pull and elicit that information. And sometimes people are not necessarily forthcoming or don't want to be forthcoming with that information. So it takes time to pull all of that out. What if we could solve that in a couple of moments? It takes sort of that maybe some of the ego or request for privacy and takes some of those things off the table. That's what I'm going to show you in a second here. So I wanted to show you this just so you get a little bit of a snapshot of who she is and what it is that she is doing in the industry she's in. Let me kind of move forward here. And this is the 90 seconds. So start your timer here. Here's what I'd like you to do. The inside middle on any one of these dimensions here are the inside shows strong disagreement or not a lot of confidence. When you go to the outside edge, you talk about high agreement or strong agreement and lots of confidence. Blue represents Sarah, gray represents her team. So you can see Sarah says is high in customer retention, employee satisfaction, operational efficiency. Oops, innovation, agility, and market position too, higher than her team. All of this, the gray represents her whole team. Let me ask you a question here. Based on this, seeing this, can you see, is there alignment that Sarah has with her team? And is there misalignment with her team? I'd love to hear in the comments. What do you think? Do you see a difference between Sarah and what her team sees? Because we're going to start to show individuals and how they interact with Sarah. All right, I'll give you a second to think through that. There's no right or wrong answers. You're pretty intelligent people, so you probably can already start to figure out a story. I want to give you a couple more moments. All right, let's walk through this a bit. So, customer retention, employee satisfaction, operational efficiency, innovation, and agility. To me, those seem like outward-facing issues that she believes that they deliver to their customers well. Their customers love them. Their employees love them. They're highly innovative what they do as a company, and they're highly agile as a company. They're a dynamic and innovative company where they have customers that love them and keep coming back. Is the story that Sarah is saying? That's the way she sees it. How do they do in revenue growth, global presence, brand reputation, technology use, communication, quality control, strategic alignment, financial strength? Not so good, which is different than what her team says. Her financial strength for her team is significantly higher. Uh, it's a middling score, but a little bit above average. Customer satisfaction. Can you see how there might be misalignment? Sarah believes they're doing so well on a couple of dimensions. Her whole team does not. Can you see how that could cause friction? Great. I would love to see what you see. And if you're listening to this after the live show, I'd love to hear what you say in the comments. And just type in pound replay in the comments so I know that you saw this afterwards. Okay, let's talk about what this means in dollars and cents. And I want to actually give you a couple of specific scenarios. So if you're an HR consulting, for example, let's take a look at this. Customer retention, employee satisfaction are high, but then global presence, revenue growth, technology use, quality control, financial strength. Can you see how that might change as an HR consultant, who and how you're talking to them? Sarah believes they're doing really well. She doesn't need to be sold on getting better services there. She probably needs more metrics to show what the reality of the situation is and where there's opportunities for improvement. The rest of the team believes that employee satisfaction is not so good, customer satisfaction is not so good, internal communications, quality control, they're not so good. And if the rest of the team feels that innovation is not so good, their culture there is the rest of the team feels that the culture is average, right? And we'll start to look at individuals. What if you're a leadership consulting? John, thank you for sharing what industry you're in. Can you see how there's a misalignment between teams? John, in what you do with what Sarah is and how she sees the world, that might be based on personality type and kind of her personality bias. And the way her rest of her team, the types of people who are on her team, what sort of personality types they are and their personality bias. This is the cool thing, right? Now, all of a sudden, as a leadership coach, you can start to see how they're seeing it different, what's their personality, how it's guiding them to have conversations. You can now shift the narrative in how you talk to Sarah and how you talk to her CFO or chief marketing officer, chief operating officer, all of those different roles. So let's give you some examples with some stats. So I told you this company is just shy of 10 million in revenue. So the strengths for this company was that they see strong customer retention and agility, but they struggle with financial. She sees that they struggle with financial strength and employee satisfaction. So a stat from Deloitte says organizations that address misalignment can see a 25% increase in revenue growth. Can you see how much misalignment there was in her team? Because if you saw that misalignment, she was off here and the rest of the team was over here. If there's a 25% increase in revenue growth, can you imagine as an HR consultant coming into an organization and telling them, I can improve your revenue, your top line by 25%? How many HR people, how many HR consultants would love to be able to put a stat like that forward? HR is going to improve your revenue by 25%. Why? Because I'm going to increase alignment in your organization. For a $10 million company, that's $2.5 million. That's a lot of money. Sarah would be kind of silly not to say $2.5 million is interesting. But what if you even went to her and said, hey, I'll give you a tenth of that. I'm going to give you $250,000. That should still be incredibly interesting for her. Right? That's what these visuals allow you to say to a Sarah. Imagine this is your client. And imagine how fast you got to the point where you could see that misalignment visually. And you could do that in probably 90 seconds. In 5 minutes, you've seen how that misalignment affects the interaction between people. Imagine being able to do that with your client and being able to let them see that misalignment. Do you think they'll have more questions for you? Yeah. Is anybody else doing anything like this? Absolutely not. Okay. So, basis for change, addressing employee satisfaction. Gallup says that companies that with high employee engagement outperform competitors by 23% in profitability. What if you were a leadership coach and you could say, hey, look, I'm going to get you all aligned because you start to understand each other's personalities and how you interact with each other and how you build culture and community amongst you. And not only that, I'm going to improve your profitability by 23%. What if this is a $10 million company? They make $1 million in profit every year. So 10% profit. I'm just coming up with a low number. And I'm going to increase that profit number from $1 million to 1.2 million, million and a quarter. I want to add $230,000 to your bottom line by bringing me on board. How powerful is that? Being able to talk about return on investment for your services. And this is the first conversation that you've had with them instead of waiting 9 months to be told no. I want to stop there. I've said quite a bit. I would love to hear what's kind of going through your mind. Is this helpful for you? Do you see how this tool would kind of fundamentally shift what could potentially happen in your dialogue with your clients? And what if I told you this only took a few minutes? Can you see how much it would change? All right. Here's a question. This is a question that you could ask of your clients after they've seen this. Would addressing friction in financial strength and employee satisfaction unlock your company's full growth potential? They saw that visual. They saw how that there's misalignment on financial strength. They saw how there's misalignment in employee satisfaction in their organization. And you, as a leadership coach, a financial coach, a business coach, an HR coach, consultant, could help them unlock that. Now you're saying, I can do that for you. Here's the stats that show that in industry, if you do this, that's how much it's going to unlock your potential. Is that useful to be able to ask a question like that? I'm going to stop for a second here because I'd love to hear in the comments if you see the impact that this could have in that conversation, potentially even the first conversation that which you have with them, showing them how much of a difference this is going to make in what value you bring to the table, and how all the other 10 other HR companies that they know of, how the other 10 other leadership companies that they know of, other financial consulting companies that they know of, how they are not providing this level of granularity and resolution in terms of what you're going to do for them. Give me a thumbs up if you believe this is high value. All right. Let's move to a new scenario. That is the interaction between Sarah and John. John is the CFO of this organization, and Sarah is the CEO. Red is Sarah, and John is the CFO. I want to pause here. You've seen in 90 seconds how to read this and how to understand it. First question for you. Do you see misalignment? Tell me in the comments. Do you see a misalignment here? All right. I want to share what John shared with me. John Lane says, so John, just to put some context around this for others so they can also see and kind of how you're processing this, and I appreciate you sharing this, John, is if I were Sarah, I would want to know why the discrepancy is so far off. This is such a good conversation opener. Bigly. That's a technical term for really large, right? Thanks, John. John, I agree with you, and I actually want to keep that up on screen here. So let's maybe think from John's point of view for a second. Here's a leadership coach, and the first question that when he after sees this visualization of what Sarah is doing, let me go back so you can kind of see what it was that Sarah looked like compared to her team. This is Sarah in blue in this case. Gray is her team. John's saying, if I were Sarah, I want to know why the discrepancy is so far off. There's such, and he's saying this is such a good conversation opener. I'm curious. I'd love to hear what other people are saying. What do you think? Why is this potentially off? Could this happen in a client organization or potential client or an existing client that you have today? Could there be this level of misalignment? I might say to you, it probably happens more often than not. And it is a fantastic way to get sort of the elephant in the room out. And in a couple of moments, asking Sarah and saying, all right, before we start to talk a little further, what's happening here? And you just remain silent. It's such a powerful way to open a conversation here. And John, I know this is the kind of stuff that you love to do. Just ask the question and let them respond. I appreciate that comment, John. It's a really insightful question that you can now ask your clients. But how do I do this? I mean, or how did this happen? Why is there such? It could be because there's new people that she's brought on board, or it's that the board that is invested in them have recommended these people, or that she has decided to pivot in terms of where the organization is, or as a visionary, she has started to see something that everyone else doesn't see. There could be 1,000 different explanations, but isn't that valuable to understand that because it understands so much context? John, I'm curious, does that answer your question? Do you feel like being able to ask that question would guide the conversation that you could have with Sarah? I'm going to hide that comment and I'm going to keep going because I'd love to address that as you, and I'm going to take that as a bigly as yeah. Because I want to show you another alignment, misalignment. And this is the question I want to ask you all. Do you see the alignment here? Do you see the misalignment here? John, you were talking about Sarah as misalignment with the team. Do you see the same level of misalignment here with the CFO? So her chief financial officer is in blue in this case, and Sarah, the CEO, is in red. You see how Sarah is so focused here, and it looks like agility has moved a little, just a little bit. It was kind of down here last time, so it's moved a little bit on this graph. But you can see the agility, operational efficiency, employee satisfaction, customer retention, and innovation. She sees them in a different way than John. John sees global presence, communication, quality control, strategic alignment, customer satisfaction, and market position are really strong. I might say that in many ways, they're kind of opposites. Question for you: does this create friction in this team? Does this shift the questions that you would be asking? Let me tell you what I think. I think that Sarah and John don't agree on the vision for the company. Their mission, their purpose as a company may be something that may have been, let's assume for a second here that Sarah's been with the company for a long time and John has recently joined in the last, 6 to 8 months. John is now sitting in this role and starting to understand more deeply where they're going and is starting to say, no, I don't think that makes any sense based on what I see as the opportunity in front of us. We've got customer satisfaction, we've got financial strength here in what we're doing. Our strategic alignment, our communication, our global presence is so strong. Why are we throwing that all away? Sarah, you're suggesting this new direction, this new opportunity for us to explore. Do you see tension? Do you see maybe some frustration, maybe even some anger in this relationship here? Do you think this relationship is going to last for a long time if they're so diametrically opposed? As an HR consultant, can you see how there might be lack of alignment in how the rest of the organization, if they're a $10 million company, let's say they've got 100 employees, just as an easy number. Can you see how the organization that works for the CFO, John, might be hearing a different message than Sarah? Does this change the way you interact with this organization? Yeah, it does a lot. Here it says Sarah prioritizes growth and agility. John emphasizes financial strength and communication. Misalignments on the technology use and employee satisfaction show their differing views and operational priorities. John wants to spend on money on and invest in things over here. Sarah wants to invest in things over here. Or is the investment going to the right place? Well, the answer is it can't be because they're looking at different things to invest in. And they're probably investing in two different places. So they're not getting anything effectively. Let me tell you a little more about John and kind of how he aligns and maybe some of the stats around this, right? We said John focuses on financial strength, quality control. Gallup says that employee engagement can lead to 23% higher profitability. We talked about that. If you're an employee engagement organization that does consulting or HR, we talked about that in the last slide. But look at this one. Optimizing technology use John could achieve a 20% increase in productivity, which translates to, for a $10 million company, translates to $2 million in revenue and reduced operational costs. Again, let's give that a haircut. Let's say it's 10%. If John were to invest in technology and could show how this technology is going to lead to operational productivity gains and reduced costs, $200,000 that goes to the bottom line. Is that valuable? I'd love to hear from people listening in. What do you think? Are you seeing these questions as things that could help guide you? What if I told you that this process would take you less than 10 minutes to have as a conversation with your existing or future clients? You qualify them very quickly. You can show them what your services are, what you do, and how it helps them in a bespoke, custom, tailored way. Because now you know what your HR services can do for them. If you're a sales consultant, you help consult on sales. You know that John is not looking at sales. But if you talk to him about sales operations, that could be interesting for him, especially if you start talking about what tools to bring in that could help increase that. That could be interesting to him because he sees that's where he can invest. All of a sudden in sales, you can get the CFO to buy in what it is that you do. All right, let's ask a question here. Does lack of this is a question you could ask? Lack of alignment in technology use and communication affect the speed of your company's decision making and financial growth? Is that a useful question for them? All right, I'm gonna um, skip forward a little bit, and the reason why is because I'd like to show you another graphic that hopefully will kind of open your mind to what is possible here and how you can experience what this tool does and how quickly it does it for you. So I've got some other, the CMO and the chief operations officer, but this is the slide that I want to show you here. This is their team. So we've got the CEO, CFO, COO, CTO, and CMO. And we've got the team average in black here. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you're marketing consultant. Just wanted to pick something slightly different. The CMO is in this light blue. You can see communication is high, technology use, revenue growth, operational satisfaction, financial strength, strategic alignment are all really high values. And they've got a high degree of confidence there. That's what the CMO sees. But the rest of the team doesn't see it that way. Can you see if you're a marketing consultant, how you would ask different members of the team different questions now to get them to understand how you can help them? Let's talk about somebody other than chief marketing officer. Let's say you want to talk to, I'm going to make one up here. COO, we'll randomly talk with them. COO is in red. They see agility, they see communication, and revenue growth is very, very strong. Those are the three things that this chief operations officer sees is very strong. What if you could talk to the COO about this idea of brand reputation? Look at the score for brand reputation for the chief operating officer. Brand reputation is really poor. Asking them a question around brand reputation. How does brand reputation help you in your organization? How does employee satisfaction help you as an organization? Does it impact what you do as a chief operations officer? Let them answer that question. And I suspect they will say, yeah, it does. How? Why? What would improving it mean for you? How does it help you as a chief operations officer? I think the answer to that becomes the path to a sale and becomes the path to consultation. Getting them to buy in and say, so here's how I would focus on these things. You see how quickly just using a visualization like this, you could have those conversations. I'd love to hear in the comments. Type in the comments if you will. Share with me what your thoughts are when you see this. If you could see a visualization of a team like this, does this help you understand how to have a conversation with them? Okay. Well, I want to share with you. We're not doing this because I have anything to sell. We as a company don't sell to coaches and consultants. We're looking for long-term partnerships. These tools are not what we deliver to organizations. We deliver these along with, as we mentioned at the top of the hour, we do this in partnership with organizations. You can use these tools to diagnose. And imagine you do this in Q1 to show what where the issues are. John says it shows where the hotspots are. And I think we're going back to this graphic that I had in a previous slide that kind of shows you how the whole organization is looking at. Yeah, absolutely right, John. It does show you where those hotspots are and you where you can start to spend some time and start to get that kind of low hanging fruit. So I completely agree. If you like a tool like this, right? I'd love to talk about a strategic partnership. Right? This is not about us selling something to you or you selling us something. This is about how we do it together. It's a product and service partnership. And I'd love to talk about partnerships that we can build for the next 10 years, if that's appropriate. I would love to book a time to chat with you and see if we can discover the opportunities. If you're a sales consultant, how can we use this to increase the velocity at which you can close deals with your organizations? Do you focus on the inside sales group? Do you focus on the outside sales group? Just like John said, it shows you where the hotspots are. By you using this diagnostic, you can very quickly find out whether it's a senior leadership team or the sales team, the inside sales team, the account management team, the outside or the business development team. You could go into each one of those organizations and find out where the hotspots are. If they've got six managers, who is struggling, who's having challenges, who's not aligned with the team mission. How do we get them to either see it the way as everyone else, or maybe perhaps get everyone else to see what that outlier is seeing as the problem, right? It's a way to build alignment very quickly and for you to see where that alignment is, where that misalignment is, so you can separate the wheat from the chaff. It allows you to ask better questions. If this is interesting, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to learn what you do and kind of show you some case studies specifically in how we used it in sales or leadership consulting and how you could potentially go to market with this. Uh, Scan that QR code or type that into your browser. I'll put it into the comments as well. Carmo.net/meetvr. We'll set up a time together and let's have a conversation. I'll leave this up on screen for a couple moments here. I'll put the link in the comments, but I would love to get comments from you. Is there something that you saw here that would help you shift the speed and the depth of questions that you could ask your potential clients or your existing clients so you can engage deeper, further with them in a way that nobody else is doing? It's a revolutionary new technology. It's patent pending. We've been using it across the globe for some time now. We're ready to start rolling it out. I'd love to partner with you if you think there's an opportunity for us to do this together. Thank you for taking some of your day to listen in. I hope this was a good use of your time. Type in pound replay if you think there is a comment you would like to share and get some answers to. I'll respond back to it. I'll get one of my team to respond back to you so we can see if we can help you out. John says, "Thank you. Nice job." I appreciate that, John. I appreciate the time and effort for you taking some time out of your day to respond, and everyone else. Thank you so much. Feel free to follow me if you want to start to see other episodes. We'll be talking about more tools because this is just scratching the tip of scratching the surface or just the tip of the iceberg. Thank you for your time. See how you can finally change the way